you know?
Do you sometimes have the chance to talk to your audience?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was the best part of coming up the way we did. You know, we signed to an indie label on purpose. You know, we realized really early on that we wanted to have control over our music, and so we, you know, took many, many years climbing up to where we are now, you know, and we used to sell our own merchandise, and we used to stand in the venue until the last person had left, you know, and it was like a house party. We'd be like, goodbye, thank you for coming, and, you know, sign every CD. And I think a lot of our fans, especially the diehard fans, really miss that time, you know. They really wish, like, they'll say it when we're on stage. They'll be like, we wish you were playing somewhere smaller, and I'm like, I miss that too, but you know, we're also almost 30, and we have a lot of mouths to feed, and I think as our music gets better and it gets more clear about, like, the sound gets clearer and our vision gets clearer and our voices get stronger, I want more people to hear our music. And I know that means we don't get to spend as much time one-on-one with fans, but I think that we find other ways to do it. You know, we use our website as a direct way to talk to people. You know, we kind of avoid using Facebook and MySpace. Like, we put tour dates up there and music and stuff, but we use our website as a way to say, like, we're actually listening to you, we are paying attention, we're giving you what you want. And I think, I mean, our shows are really long. Sometimes we play almost 2 hours. Like, you know, we talk to our audience a lot, and we still try to make them feel like we're there, because we are, but only for 2 hours, not afterwards, you know, because then it would be too much. But I think our audience is fascinating, and I think that no matter where we travel all over the world, they're very similar. Like, we bring out the same kinds of people, and they're a very interesting bunch, and I feel like they really understand what we're trying to do, and I think that our music is really important to them because it feels very personal. And if we took that away from them, like if we became impersonal with our music, I think it would be really awful, you know, so.
You mentioned that you're almost 30, and you started to play music when you were 14, so kind of half of your life you're doing music. Do you have the impression that your music is getting adult as you are getting?
I think that, you know, music, the interesting thing about the author or the writer or the composer is that as you get older, it doesn't necessarily exclude people who aren't experiencing the same things as you or are in the same age bracket as you. Some of the most influential music that I loved when I was a kid, there's no rational reason why at 8 years old my favorite artist could have been Bruce Springsteen, because he was like speaking to me. Like, I was 8. Like, I don't know why I really liked it. Like, I didn't understand the themes of any of his songs, and yet I was really drawn to the melody, and I was really drawn to the emotion. And I think there's something, you know, as we get older, obviously our perspective matures and our songwriting matures, but I don't think that necessarily means that we'll exclude, you know, the core of our audience, which is a younger audience, you know, maybe 15 to 25. So, you know, you don't want to become that artist that, like, can't get a grip and deal with, like, the fact that they're aging. You know, like, I would like to age gracefully. I don't want to alienate the teenagers and the 20-somethings in our crowd, but as we get older, I don't want to be ashamed to be older either. But I don't fear, like, thematically, I don't fear that I'm gonna, like, hit some age and suddenly not be able to relate to people. Like, I think if anything, you find a more succinct way of communicating these universal themes, like Tegan was saying, you know. I think that if anything, as we get better at doing what we'll do, we'll probably attract more people, like babies, parrots, you know.
Your mother was a very important person to you, and that she was a great inspiration for you, and she's like kind of a hero. Do you have, except of your mother, other heroes?
You know, I mean, we grew up with a really strong female, like, set of role models in our family. My mom obviously, you know, was amazing and went back to university in her 20s and was a single parent, and you know, got Sarah and I involved in a lot of social, like, issues. You know, we did a lot of the women's marches, and, you know, we were involved in sort of, like, you know, anti-homophobia stuff really early on. But, you know, there was a lot of other people, like, as we started our career, that were really amazing as well. Like, last year we did a tour with Cyndi Lauper, and you know, she does the True Colors tour every year in North America, where she raises money for the Human Rights Commission, and she's as close to being gay as you possibly can get without being gay. Like, she's like the biggest queer ally, you know, we have. And hanging out with her for a couple weeks was amazing. You know, she truly is one of the most motivated, driven, passionate people. And, you know, I think she just continues, even though she's not necessarily like at the size of like a Madonna, like, you know, some of these other artists that were breaking in the 80s and stuff, she still has this huge audience and has a huge influence over a lot of people. And Sarah and I talk about it a lot. Like, we loved Cyndi Lauper growing up, and some of our fans, when we were on tour with Cyndi Lauper, you know, when we were out signing afterwards, even before and after the tour, we're like, who's Cyndi Lauper? And I was like, oh my God, we have to tell people about Cyndi Lauper. People are, like, you know, younger than us, we have to tell them about her. So I'd say that she still kind of is like probably one of my biggest heroes. You know, I just was reading about her recently again. She's, you know, she literally just went to the White House and had dinner with Barack Obama. I mean, she's actually a really intensely involved political, you know, queer ally, and like, she's incredible. Plus, she still is kicking it. You know, I think she's like 56 or 58 or something like that. She is such a babe still, so.
There was so many really positive female role models for us when we were growing up in the 80s, especially because our mom was really into music. And I'm not saying that there aren't those kind of artists now, it's just, it carries a different weight, you know, like with the internet, and we're sort of post-feminism at this point, there's a lot of like, meh, whatever, it's not a big deal, everything's cool. But back in the 80s, like people like Patti Smith and Chrissie Hynde and Kate Bush and Tori Amos, like all of these women, like they were really battling like a lot of sexism and a lot of like be pigeonholed as women artists, and those were the people that we grew up listening to. So there was kind of this attitude of like, well, if they can do it, like I'm gonna do it, and you don't have to be this sort of passive, you know, this passive artist. And that was my mom. She was just like, you know, big permed hair. She was her rock star in her own way, like big permed hair and crazy outfits, and she was like an academic and, you know, super cool and fun and cultural, and like we were really inspired by that, like, you know, being yourself. Like there's nothing cooler than just being who you really truly are. Like, and so anyways, I think there's lots of people, not just women, doing that today, but it feels different somehow, you know? Like it's less of a political statement to just be yourself now for whatever reason.
And do you feel like this is an issue? Like you're very opened up about your sexuality, but
I think it's an issue if you allow yourself to think about, like it's easy to sort of like out of sight, out of mind. Like even in places like France, for example, like politically, there's still so many countries in Europe where there's no civil marriage, there's no gay adoption, there's no rights. Like it is so backwards and so behind in so many places that aren't backwards or behind. You know, it's like gay rights is one of kind of the last things that is just not seen as a human rights issue. And you know, coming from Canada, where, you know, we have civil marriage and gay people are allowed to adopt kids, and you know, the place has not fallen apart. You know, like it's not wild with, you know, whatever, like sexual deviance or whatever. And there's this kind of like attitude when you go around the world, like, you know, people sort of are like, they don't necessarily want to talk about it, or they don't want to politically talk about things. And that's sad for us, you know, because especially when you're looking out at kids that look so much like Tegan was saying earlier, like kids in Canada kind of look like the kids in the States, and they sort of look like the kids in Japan and Australia. Like we really draw in a very similar audience, except that some of them are growing up completely in fear, completely closeted, not able to talk about who they are, and that makes me really sad. So I'm glad that we can speak out about it and talk about it, and, you know.